if that doesn't make you feel like just jolly and full of Christmas spirit. Welcome to our last Thursday night digital discussion of the year, if you can believe it, with the Milwaukee County Historical Society. My name is John Harry. I'm the Programs and Marketing Fellow for the Milwaukee County Historical Society. Steve, is Santa in your house right now?
He sure is, John. Can you hear him? He's just walking
I can. I didn't know if that was feedback. Funny. Well, so we're at the last one of these for the year, which is crazy to think about. Steve Schaffer, our assistant archivist at the Historical Society, he did our first one. I didn't remember what you did it on back in like early April. And we didn't know what the heck. Oh yeah, it was about some of the photos in our collection.
Yes.
We didn't know what we were doing, and so we've gotten better at this overall. So that's good. But to everybody who's tuned in and supported us throughout this year, a huge thank you goes out to you, because it's been just a crazy year of trying to adapt and pivot and trying to figure out how we can survive all this. So couldn't do it without you. So we appreciate that very, very much. We will be announcing a fresh slate of cool talks coming up in the new year. So please keep up to date. If you're not on our mailing list, do so to find out first about some cool talks. I'm going to give you a hint. John Gerda is going to be talking for us again in not too long. So if you want to find out about that first, make sure you go to MilwaukeeHistory.net and sign up for our mailing list, newsletter type stuff. We do have our political exhibit up for one more day, or no, 2 more days till Saturday. So Better, Bigger, Brighter, 150 years of Milwaukee politics is yours to see for only 2 more days. And then we go on our little holiday hiatus. So we get the next exhibit ready to go. So make sure that you check that out if you didn't see it, because then it goes away. Other than that, I don't actually have very little to talk about tonight. And I'm super excited because I have been like banking that it's going to be snowy for Christmas, and I don't know if I'm going to get that, because I love the holiday season and I love like the brightness and the cheer and all that stuff. So even though we don't have snow here yet, we got Steve Schaffer, our assistant archivist, to help make us feel like we're in the Christmas season a little bit more as we get, what is it, a week away as of tomorrow? So pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty scary.
Yeah, get that shopping done and whatnot. But Steve is going to do this talk about Milwaukee's holiday traditions. And if you have any comments or questions for Steve, just put those in the comments, and we'll do a Q&A here at the end. But without any further ado, Steve, Milwaukee's holiday traditions, take her away.
Thanks, John. Hi, everybody. Just starting off with a wonderful picture of East Wisconsin Avenue, corner of Wisconsin and Milwaukee. We're looking east, of course. Beautiful T.A. Chapman's lights and displays in the window. You can see the federal courthouse in the background, just a hint of what I call the first Wisconsin. That's how old I am. I think it's U.S. Bank now. But really the centerpiece of this Ray Chopre photo is the really elaborate, wonderful holiday lighting that is part of the city lights during the holiday season. So, as John said, I am Steve Schaffer, the assistant archivist. This is what I have to do to keep my job every year. I do play Santa Claus. Most years it's been, actual Santa Claus, kids on the lap. This year it's by Zoom, and it's going quite well. We're able to really adapt well with it, because everybody likes Santa Claus, even on a Zoom meeting. So let's get right into it. So beginnings. This is a shot, it's actually a lithograph from an 1865 Harper's magazine, and it's obviously a shot of Christmas celebration. Now, this would have been considered rather opulent by the original pioneers in Milwaukee. I think it's important to mention that the Christmas tree is actually Milwaukee's oldest tradition at Christmas. It was really kind of a German introduction to the new city, and it was commented on quite a bit by early pioneers. So we have some accounts from a gentleman named Robert Pierce, and it was some essays that he had written, and it was recollections of a pioneer Christmas, and he mentions the stark difference between what he calls the natives, which would be Yankees, more than likely Protestants, and the immigrants, or the as he calls them, the foreigners, but they were actually the German immigrants, some Swedish, and he just mentions that the natives, as he calls them, again, the Yankees, celebrated Christmas very differently. It was a day of quiet, peaceful reflection. Just a day to kind of relax, tranquility, versus a very raucous public celebration that was engaged in by the immigrant population. There were sports, different games. There was just a lot of social enjoyment that included horse racing, and some of that horse racing was on the frozen Milwaukee River, and I'm sure there was betting, of course. Skating, and even turkey shooting. So it was a day to celebrate and to be outdoors versus just in the house quietly reflecting. John B. Vliet also also describes the same kind of situation. You may recognize the name Vliet. He is Garrett Vliet's son. You've probably heard of Vliet Street. Well, that's the family. He served in the Civil War, so he was a young man in the early period, the 1850s, and he was interviewed in just about the turn of the century by the Old Settlers Club, which later became the Historical Society, and he also describes it was less ostentatious in his time than now, meaning the turn of the century, and fewer elaborate gifts. He laments that toys have become works of art and marvels of mechanism, and he at the time he didn't believe that they actually cultivated development of the imagination in children. And it's kind of funny because my dad would have said that in 1970. It's just kind of funny how that generational thing kind of has always been there. He also reiterates Robert Pierce's point that the Germans brought the traditions of Santa Claus, the Christmas tree, and it took what he calls American families some time to adapt to that. And he also describes that Christmas wasn't really celebrated religiously, except by Catholics and Episcopals. So it would be the early Irish population, the German population, and he chalks that up to the old New England spirit. And by that, I think he means kind of the sort of stern Calvinism that the East, the New England was founded on, where Calvinism, Presbyterians, they viewed Christmas as they held it in contempt as a pagan holiday, something certainly not an enlightened Christian would celebrate. So a very different view. Frances Noyes is another individual. Now, she was a Yankee, and she just described very simple toys. They did believe in Santa Claus, but they did not have a Christmas tree, and they just put out stockings. In fact, she said she didn't have a Christmas tree until she was an adult. And then August Frank, who you may recognize the last name of He was a junior partner in Gall and Frank, the wholesale dry goods establishment. In letters back to a relative in Germany, described the large Christmas tree lit with candles under which they opened presents. He describes just vast amounts of food in the celebration: chickens, turkeys, sauerkraut, smoked meat, as he said, came flying into the house. So it was the Germans really established what we know as the Christmas traditions of the tree and Santa Claus in Milwaukee, and just the general celebration of it. That is to say that there were other immigrant groups that also shared that. So the Swedes, there would be other influences, but really it was the Germans. This is a picture that I included just to kind of show what a Christmas day might have looked like. This is, I don't know this is exactly it, but it would be the kids out sledding, people playing, engaging out in the street. This is on Walnut. You can see the Pabst brewing structures in the background. So this just would have been kind of emblematic of the type of day that would have that Christmas would have been. So the holidays include all traditions, and that would include Hanukkah. And Hanukkah commemorates the rededication of the second temple of the second temple of Jerusalem during the 2nd century BC. It's an 8-day celebration. Initially, the early Jewish population in Milwaukee, and that is a very old population. A lot of German immigrants were Jewish, and initially the Hanukkah celebration was in homes or in the home of a rabbi. And then when synagogues were established, then of course the celebration would be in synagogues. And like I say, although it has been celebrated in Milwaukee since the original city was established, it still really wasn't a public holiday until very recently. I'd say within the last 20 or 30 years, you begin to see more public manifestations of Torahs and I'm sorry, not Torahs, menorahs, and just evidence that there is a celebration going on. By the way, these gentlemen are from the Wisconsin Institute for Torah Studies, and this photo is a complement of Wisconsin historical images. But as you can see, much later there were very, very prominent displays of menorahs at different places, like General Mitchell International Airport and at the Calatrava wing to the Art Museum. And these photographs are compliments of the Lubavitch of Wisconsin. And a friend of mine, Steve Weinstein, was able to get them for me. And I had asked him when he had remembered seeing menorahs in public. And he said the first one he remembered was maybe 15 years ago in City Hall. So the displays are kind of they're a relatively new thing. Another tradition at the holiday time is Kwanzaa, and that's the week following Christmas, December 26th through New Year's. Kwanzaa was created in 1966 as a non-religious celebration of family and social values. So this is a celebration. The gentleman on the right is Clybourne Benson of the Wisconsin Black Historical Society. And this is a shot from 2019. This one I had to get off the internet because like the Hanukkah pictures, we just don't have a lot of those that have been donated yet to the Historical Society. And then here's one more Kwanzaa shot. This is a celebration that was a public celebration. And there's a misconception about Kwanzaa that it's in competition with Christianity, or it conflicts with it, when actually it's not religious whatsoever. It was created to help African Americans reconnect with their African culture and historic identity, and it's based on 7 principles to live by: unity, self-determination, collective work and responsibility, cooperative economics, purpose, creativity, and faith. So oftentimes people will celebrate Christmas and Kwanzaa. And in this photograph, that is the supervisor, county supervisor, Supreme Moore Omokunde, at a celebration in the city. Okay, so we're moving to the new century. These are 2 shots that I think are pretty interesting. Well, the first one, we're back. The one on the left, we're back to the corner by T.A. Chapman. So that's Chapman's decorations circa 1937. That's a Lyle Oberweis photograph. The one on the right is Mitchell Street, and I'm not sure who the photographer was, but if you look closely, it says this tree erected by B. Wisniewski Carpenter Contractors, and it's going to be part of the community Christmas tree celebration, and we'll kind of get to that. But the new century kind of changed the way that Christmas was celebrated. We have an account from a gentleman named Chester Salomon, who described how Christmas was for him. And this is a kid who lived sort of around 3rd Street in 1910. So there was a lot of a German influence on him. And he said that Christmas ramped up after St. Nicholas Day, after December 6th. And that for us is kind of a late start to the season. He said that he described actual Christmas shopping was largely left to the last week or 2, excuse me, before Christmas. So I just wonder what they would think of our ramping up of Christmas. Certainly the commercial season in October, certainly right after Halloween. He did say that a lot of the same names were the popular stores to go to: Chapman's, Gimbel's, Boston Store, and Espenhain's, Schuster's, a couple on Fond du Lac. One was Box, and another was Kroger on National Avenue. But the big event was the community tree Christmas Eve lighting in the Court of Honor, and that was a very big deal, and that's kind of how they started off the celebration. So the community tree, it's been a couple of places, and now we know it as being in Red Arrow Park, but it started in the Court of Honor. So that's right across from by the library and by the Wisconsin Club on Wisconsin Avenue. So this was a tradition that was ironically initiated by the socialists. Emil Seidel was the socialist mayor elected in 1910, and he decided that he wanted to, sort of give the socialists a better public face, to show that, in fact, they weren't anti-religious. They weren't all atheists. So he decided on this idea, and he had read about a tree like this that was put up in a town out on the East Coast, and it was put up with the idea that travelers in the town would have something to reflect on if they weren't home at Christmas, and he loved that idea. So it was like holiday cheer for those away from home. And the first one was Christmas Eve, 1910, in the Court of Honor. And then that tradition is carried on. So these are 2 shots of it in the Court of Honor. They're both from Lyle Oberweis, 1938. So the one on the left is looking east. You can see the Mariner Building, what it was called at the time, and one on the right, you can see St. James, you can see Jesu, and then to the immediate right is the library. So you can see it was a rather big tree. It did move then to MacArthur Square. The photo on the right is another Ray Chopre shot, and you can see it's obviously looking east down Kilbourne, City Hall in the background. But if you look closely at that tree, you can see that the branches appear to be composed of little tiny trees, and that's kind of important because that's exactly how it was built. There were sections of the tree that it was a stack of hundreds of smaller trees. So these are, again, two more Lyle Oberweis shots. On the left is the completed tree. And this is one of Oberweis's favorite locations to photograph. It's right by the Court of Honor. Again, we can see the Mariner building in the background, public library. But on the right, and there's the Wisconsin Club behind it. You can see that it's a series of scaffolding. So then pieces of the trees were fit into that, and then it would create one whole tree. John Gerda has an excellent essay about this. If you're interested more, it's called, it's in his book, Cream City Chronicles, which is really my favorite book of his. And it's O Tannenbaum, Milwaukee style. And he describes the socialists and the creation of the tree. Excuse me. So public sector holiday lights and decorations. So this has always been a Milwaukee tradition. There's really no other way to say it. It's because it's a city thing as opposed to private enterprise, which I'll get to. But here's this opening shot is from November of 1944. It was taken during the Sixth War Loan event in Milwaukee, which featured different military displays. There was a landing craft moored next to gimbals in the river downtown, things like that. But you can see that they've incorporated some of those into the Christmas lights. But this is a good shot because you can see these. There were lights, but the decorations are not as elaborate as we know them now. There were just this, simple garland with some lights on them, maybe a few stars in the middle of the garland, and then just wreaths. So although they were lit, they weren't the elaborate ones we see now. But this is kind of the start of the lights in the 1930s and forward. So they began simply and then became more complex, as we'll see. This shot I included just to kind of show. You can see some of the decorations in the background. They become more ornate. They're on both sides, and you can see just part of one here that's hung across the intersection. Of course, Boston Store still has their own tree up, but this kind of gives you an idea of how they became more elaborate. Here's the City Hall atrium. This is a photograph by John Otis from 1976, and the City Hall tree is kind of interesting. I don't know for a fact that it was. What's interesting about it to me is that it was started in 1913. So it seems to me to be a response to the socialist community tree. Well, we have to have a Milwaukee City tree because this was created at the time when there was a combined Republican and Democrat party that was kind of ganging up to kick the socialists out, and they did for a term, but then lost to Dan Hone later. But so during their administration, the Milwaukee City Christmas tree was created, and that's in City Hall. So it was the Milwaukee City Christmas tree from 1913 to 1995. It became the Milwaukee Holiday Tree from 95 to 2006, and then it reverted to the Milwaukee City Christmas tree from 2006 to the present. Now, these are some more shots of the municipal lights, and the one on the left is another John Otis shot, and that's really a great view of the elaborate pieces that hung in the middle of the intersections, quite well lit, and quite elaborate. And back to our old friend Lyle Oberweis on the right, this is a shot, obviously Gimbels is right there, so he's pretty much at the bridge looking east, and you can see in the background, the lit, elaborate displays down Wisconsin Avenue, in addition to private sector displays like the Gimbels lights here. And one more Ray Chopre, what I like to call Christmas noir, shot from the 1950s, late 50s, looking up Wisconsin Avenue again, just really highlights those wonderful displays that were across the street, and it's really just a wonderful shot. And then the last two, I believe, these are shots of, these are again Lyle Oberweis, and this is right after World War II. I believe this is like 48. He was overseas, and came back in 45, and we start to see a lot of his photographing again in 1948. And these two views, I believe, one might be 48 and one might be 46. So the one on the left, obviously, is the Schrader Hotel. We're pretty much at the library looking east, and you can see again kind of a simple unlit Christmas sign, and then the garland. And the same on the right. This is farther up the avenue. This is we're at Water Street looking east. You can see the Wells building in the background, very, very distant gas company building. But again, kind of a simpler lighted system. You can see there's stars, a few reindeer, those lit up, but basically kind of a simple design compared to the later ones. Milwaukee's Holiday Lights Festival is one of those that is again so new. We don't have a lot of pictures of them, so I included pictures of myself, my wife Laurel on the left, and our granddaughter, because this is Pierre Marquette Park, so they're right behind the Historical Society. So this tradition began in 1998, and it's been wildly successful. It's at Pierre Marquette Park, Cathedral Square, and Zeidler Union Square. And there are shuttles that will drive you to look at them. It's really quite a nice way to look at the lights. I know with COVID, it's something you can do outside in space well, so it's still very popular. Just needs a little snow, I think, to add to the seasonal enjoyment out of it. Mitchell Park domes, completed in 1962, always have, there's always an annual Christmas display, holiday display of some sort. I'm not sure of the year of this photograph. I think this is might be mid or early 80s, but again, you can see there's a gingerbread house in the background, of course, Santa. We are very lucky to have a collection that was donated by a gentleman named George Potasic, who worked for the Parks Department and was in charge of rebuilding bridges, and I think he also had a role in creating temporary decorative displays. And he and his wife went to Mitchell Park almost every year. And these are shots. The top one is from 1977. The bottom two are from 1988. So we have a real, thanks to George Potasic, we have a very good, series of photographs of the different celebrations throughout the year. And parades. If there's one thing this town loves, it's parades. You have parades when streets open, labor parades, parades for festivals, and of course, parades for the holidays, and Christmas is no exception. This is a shot, obviously, Goldman's. This is from 1988. It's Santa's on a small float, and it's probably one of the local parades down Mitchell Street. And this might even be part of I don't know if it's not. It wouldn't be the Downtown Association, but this probably was a small parade that was on Mitchell Street. So I think the granddaddy of all the parades in Milwaukee would, of course, have to be the Schuster's Christmas Parade, which ran from 1927 to 1961. It was certainly the most well-attended Christmas parade, and probably the most well-known for people born in the 1930s through the 1950s. It's a source of constant interest to current generations as well, just because of the size of it. And on this one, if we look closer, we can see this is the parade on Volite Street. The parade was started as a way, it was a marketing scheme, a marketing idea to sell more toys at Christmas. So why not have a parade to advertise a little bit about Schuster's and toys. So a couple of factoids. It was Saturday after Thanksgiving. It started at 7 p.m. and it lasted about 2 hours. It was a 7-mile route, which is just, quite amazing. And that accounted for the number of people. It attracted crowds. I've seen like 250, 300,000 as a number. I can't verify that for certain, but I can definitely easily say 75,000, and I'd even maybe clip it up. 100,000, and you have to remember that's along a 7-mile trip, so it's not that many people all at once, but collectively throughout the whole parade, it would attract that many. And you can see this is the route. So it would start at the 12th and Volite Schuster store, swing down past the 3rd Street, 3rd and Garfield line, and store, and then down to 12th and Mitchell. And the parade route was designed around the Milwaukee Electric Railway and Light Company streetcar lines. So the parade was locked onto those lines, those tracks. This is an example of how the floats were made. So this was a utility trolley. So it was a flatbed used for repairs and work, fill it with tools, but you could also build a structure around it. So that's exactly what they did to make the floats. The a lot of the floats were, the earlier ones especially were like Mother Goose tails, Wizard of Oz displays, and then things related to brownies, which I'll get to in a bit with Billy the Brownie, but kind of elf type motifs on a lot of these. Here's some examples. Obviously, it's Santa's cookie train on the left and the nursery rhyme train on the right. I think this is probably at their staging time right before the parade. You can see, they're quite elaborate. They have lights on them, so they were really something to see. And here's an example of the crowds that watch them. I really love this picture because everyone seems entranced, even this woman. So it must have been quite a spectacle. Somebody's on the naughty list down here, but other than that, it really this picture just captures the excitement and the awe of the people seeing this parade. It really had to have been something. So after the parade was over and the toys were being marketed, the Santa and his sleigh, which included live reindeer, by the way, which is just amazing to think about these live animals on this float moving down this 7-mile route. It's quite amazing. But they would stop at schools, orphanages, hospitals, and visit with kids. It was really more of a goodwill a trip. The school on the left is Holy Assumption in West Dallas in 1927, and Hanover Street School in 1927. So the south side and the west side. But you can see the reindeer, Santa, and this gentleman was known as Me Tick. He was Santa's reindeer assistant. He would travel on the float with the reindeer, try to keep some order there, I guess. Last shot of Santa. It's hard to tell. This looks to me like it's the store on 3rd and Garfield, but I could be wrong about that. You can see everything on board, but this is a really particularly good shot of the live animals. And I mean, that is quite amazing that they could, keep them relatively calm on this moving vehicle. But now we're getting to the something I simply cannot. Something I simply cannot. Sorry about that. It's a very touchy button I've got here. I can't overlook Billy the Brownie because in 1931 Sears was they weren't seeing the numbers they wanted in toy sales out of the parade alone, so they came up with another marketing scheme that featured Billy the Brownie, and Billy was considered Santa's front man. He would scope out Milwaukee and get letters and read them, and he was more of a goodwill ambassador, if you will, not kind of like the creepy totalitarian elf on the shelf. He was more of an interceder for Santa. So they developed this idea into a radio show that just became fabulously popular in the 30s, 40s, and into the 50s. And kids would tune in. It became a real cultural, pop culture event. Everybody was waiting to hear what Billy would have to say and whose letters they were going to read. But the concept of Billy began. So if you look at the picture on the left, on the left hand, Billy in the left picture is the original kind of brownie design, and this is a rather old style. It's an old cultural image from European history. It's brownies were mischievous but not evil house spirits, and they would they could be helpful, they could be mischievous, but it's an old image, and this one was particularly made popular by a gentleman named Palmer Cox, who created stories about these brownies. And in fact, some of you who are into football may recall that the Cleveland Browns had a similar sort of brownie as their team logo, almost I think to about 1970, certainly in the late 60s. But again, you can see it's a rather organic looking creature. Its feet and its hands are kind of like leaves. And the Billy in the right, the colored Billy, and then the other Billy was a later development. So Billy the Brownie, the radio show ended in 1955 because he was competing with television, and it just wasn't as successful. The parade had kind of gone, it had replaced fake reindeer with real reindeer, and the parade itself ended in 1960. Billy's radio show ended in 55. It was Schuster's was I think they merged with Gimbel's. They may have been bought by Gimbel's, but it became Gimbel Schuster's, which explains why my parents always said Gimbel Schuster's when clearly it was only Gimbel's. And then it just became Gimbel's. Gimbel's did not renew the idea of the parade. They shifted their interest in the downtown parade to the Downtown Association parade, which I'll get to. But in 1973, they did a survey, and they found that Billy the Brownie, besides Santa Claus, Billy the Brownie was still a well-known figure in among Milwaukeeans. So in 1973, they recreated him, and these are the one on the right is a good example. We have about 9 of those. Some are standing, some are sitting, but they would be in different shops. But they were created to look more human-like and emphasize movement, because this three-dimensional element of them allowed Gimbel's to to use live actors to portray Billy at events. And again, they did not go with a radio show or a television show. It's just too expensive, but they would do these live appearances with Billy actors. So that is the Billy in a nutshell. We do a whole presentation on this because there's quite a bit to it, but that's the skinny on Billy, the Brownie, and the Schuster Parade. So now we're moving into the Downtown Association Parade, and it's fair to say that it grew out of the Schusters and Gibbles Parade, but it's not a direct line. The George DeGrasse family began running the parade in 1953 to 2018, and it was mainly in the downtown area. Again, Gibbles threw its support behind this one, as did other stores, and it was quite an event. It's the Christmas parade I remember in the 60s and 70s, and these are two pretty good examples. This is shots from the 1950s. These are Lyle Oberweis black and whites again. So we have, these are rather interesting floats to me. The Milwaukee Children's Hospital and the Milwaukee Urban League. They're just they're interesting, but it just showed that, everybody was getting out there, able to advertise in this Christmas parade. This one just really blows my mind. This is a Ray Chopre shot. So we're looking at looks like 2nd Street in the background, Wisconsin Avenue. I mean, just the color of this is beautiful. Just the old signs are fabulous. You can again see the Christmas decorations. Excuse me. This is circa 1960. And I think the thing that I really love about this is, although the image isn't, the floats aren't as big as the Macy's parade, obviously, they still have that feel of the Macy's Thanksgiving parade. And I just love this photograph. These are some from the Milwaukee Holiday Parade. It's the same parade, but it was changed to the Holiday Parade. These are from 1984. The one on the left really cracks me up. It's a little Christmas thriller. So there's little Michael Jackson on there singing away, and the one on the right's a little bit more traditional. We're on water in Wisconsin, obviously. Someplace else. I don't remember ever going in there, but that was quite the spot back in the day. And then one more. This is our own Doris Heiser. She's been a board member forever with the society since the 1970s, and really just worked hard for us. And here she is in 1984 on our float in the parade. A couple more. So this is Barbara Becker from Funny Farm, Gordon, Howard Gurnett, and Rosemary, very popular television personalities at the time. But as an archivist, what I love about this photograph is the excavation in the back, which is the excavation for the then First Wisconsin building going up. So I mean, we take parade photographs. We do accept them, and one of the reasons we do is because the backgrounds will always be different and may have a certain something new or some facet of some construction or something that hasn't been seen. And of course, these like Peter Max-esque boots here in the background are kind of interesting to me as well. But this is just a great shot. And then this is one of the ones you can see the live action Billy in the parade, and this is right in front of Gimbel. So this is the Downtown Association, but you can see how different the Billy and Santa float is. I mean, it's now a trailer, and sometimes it was a truck. It's being pulled by a Ford, which I think was my parents' car, and of course it's a reindeer display. So the last Billy parade, the last appearance of Billy and Santa in the parade was in 1980, and I believe the last parade they had, that was in 1980. Gimbel's then in 1986 closed and their legacy as a commercial giant downtown ended there. One more parade. This one is a relatively new one, and I absolutely love this. This is the 100-car menorah parade. The photograph is by the Schultz Center, which is on Lake Drive in Brown Deer. It's one of the old Pandal restaurants right at that corner. I don't know how old this event is, but I do remember when I lived on the east side in the 1980s. It was more like the late 90s. I would start to see menorah cars here and there, and it's just a great holiday event and something really fun to see on the road. And thanks again to the Lubavitch of Wisconsin for this photo. So now the private sector. So this many of you will recognize as the old Marshall and Ilsley Bank. It's now the BMO Harris on Water and Wells. These are shots that Ray Chopre took in the 1970s. This is the Steiff animal displays that have been on display at this particular bank since 1972. That's when the tradition started. This is another one that my wife and I like to go to with our granddaughter. So these are shots from 2017. We had some from last year as well. I believe this year they are going to have a display where you can walk on the outside of the building and look at. So kudos to BMO Harris for keeping that going. Another Milwaukee tradition are cookbooks that used to be and still are published by the various utilities. So on the right, we have a 1939 Wisconsin Electric Power Company Christmas cookies book. On the left is a holiday foods from the Home Service Department of the gas company. And recent events have really demonstrated how popular the electric company cookbook is. It's We Energies now, but there was the lineup for them at American Family Park, and there was such a lineup that some people thought it was lineup for COVID shots and or vaccinations, and were in there, and then realized that they were getting a Christmas cookie book. So, I mean, this is still a very big deal. The society has most of them, not a complete set, but they're a lot of fun to look through. Another private sector Christmas force in Milwaukee, I guess you could say, was the Allen Bradley Company. This particular shot is of the Allen Bradley Players holiday party circa 1960s. And the players, the Allen Bradley Players, were a group of employees who would put on productions twice a year. And these were, when I say productions, these were really well done theatrical productions. They were very talented individuals, but each department would have Christmas events. And then there was one big Allen Bradley Christmas party, mainly for the kids, and gifts were given out, Santa, the whole ball of wax. But I've processed a lot of this collection, and some of the files that we've kept, and I had to sample them, which means I only keep a few because there's so many. Were of the various gifts that the Allen Bradley people had to buy for customers, other contractors, and then employees, salesmen. It's just mind-boggling. A lot of it was using her sausage, I have to be honest with you. Some more corporate images. These are some of my favorites. The transport company really put out some beautiful Christmas cards. In the one on the right is from 1966, just a beautiful stylized Christmas tree image. And the one on the right is a little later. It was from the freeway flyer, same kind of thing. There's Santa waiting to get on the freeway flyer. But we have a lot of these Christmas cards from different corporations. Again, Allen Bradley had quite a few of them that were given out. Miller beer. It's kind of nice to see that this is an older tradition that's still being kept alive by places like Lakeside. I mean, they have their Thanksgiving Day release of a beer. This is Miller's Christmas beer. So it must be aging. This must be before December 5th, but I mean, that's cutting it pretty close by today's standards for the release of a Christmas beer. But, you know, Miller got into the spirit of things. We'll have to ask John at the end of the show if he knows anything about this particular beer. I have never seen it. And
I can cut in if you want me to.
They obviously didn't make it in my life. Moving along, we've got some more window displays. The one on the right, I'm not really sure of. All I know is it's John Otis who took the photograph, and it's probably in the area around the Marine Bank. The one on the left is Peepers, which was a kind of a variety store, if you will, that was on Broadway. That's from the 1940s. This one I just included because I loved it. It's a giveaway, Christmas giveaway in a theater. The guys got their little pot shot games. The girls seem to kind of get ripped off a little bit. They've got little organs or accordions or something. I guess that's okay. But just the girl on the right end with the big smile and the beautiful building in the background, which I think might be the Uptown Theater, but I'm just not sure. I can't say that specifically. It could be any, but this picture just exemplifies Christmas from a kid's perspective. Just loved it. Another John Otis shot. This is the Marine Bank on the corner of Water and Wisconsin. Milwaukee's true international style building designed by Harrison and Abramovitz in 1961. They're a big name in international style. It's really a wonderful building, but this is a great little display. If you were a kid, boy, especially in the 60s or 70s, train displays like this were really the thing. And this is a beautiful picture by John Otis. Here's a nativity scene from Alice Chalmers. This is I think on 70th in West Dallas, right by Greenfield. It's one of their smaller buildings, but a beautiful nativity scene, fairly elaborate, well lit. Miller Brewing, they began in the 1950s to light up Miller Valley in their buildings, and then of course for the 150th anniversary in 2005, they began the really elaborate displays that we have now. I just gave this talk to a Miller group, and they promised that maybe they can get me some of the newer pictures because we just don't have any in the archive. Now we're moving to the malls, which began to impact Milwaukee in the 50s and 60s. So this is the classic Capitol Court iconic cookie house. This is where I grew up, and this is the Santa I went to see, and then just be amazed by the mechanical wonder that was the cookie house. This is a shot from, I think, 1961. I love the expression on this girl's face. She is like so over this costume and this whole deal. But this is just a great image. Capitol Court was a fun place to grow up around. This is another shot from 1961. They had this spectacular tree. So that's Gimbel's or Schuster's in the background, the candy canes. I remember doing this. It was a really wonderful event. And I could see this tree from the second floor of the house I grew up in. It was wonderful. And then, rolling in Toys for Tots, also a big Milwaukee tradition. And one more shot of the tree. So this is about 1970. In the Capitol Court Plaza. Can't forget the Grand Avenue Mall in its heyday. These are shots from Lyle Oberweis circa 1986, just beautiful views of all the elaborate lights and the different stores. Here we have some of Mayfair Mall, which was built in 1958, was going to be Westgate, but changed to Mayfair Mall. So the shot on the left is from 1958. That's a Henry Soneman photograph, just really wonderful. The unenclosed mall, Marshall Fields. The one on the right is from 76, and that again is John Otis. Now we have an enclosed mall, but not the mall that we know now. So this is a transitional one. You see there were little bridges and koi ponds and things like that. Another view kind of the opposite side. So again, you can see the openness of the mall, Marshall Fields, and now that window on the left is captured by John Otis in the 70s. Here's another shot from the 70s inside Marshall Fields. If you grew up on the north side, Capitol Court was our go-to, but Mayfair was fancy. So if we were getting something fancy, we would go to Mayfair. At least that was for my family. But it was a great mall to go to. And this is one of the reasons. This is the old ice skating rink that is now in the center. Well, it was in what is now that center atrium. So there were areas below this that you could shop. I believe this picture was probably taken from the McDonald's that was on the side where you could sit and have your Big Mac and watch your friends ice skate. It was a lot of fun. I remember doing that quite a bit. Moving down to the south side, because we don't want to leave the south side out. This is a shot of Southgate Mall. So Southgate was really one of the first kind of what we know of as a post-World War II suburban style shopping center. It was the first one in Milwaukee. It was really strategically located between the old South Side and what was the new burgeoning, expanding South Side and suburban areas that included, Greendale and Greenfield. So that was in 1951 when it was built. It was open at that time. This is a shot from after 71. So I'm thinking this is 1972 or 3. It's a Ray Chopre shot. The mall was enclosed in 71, and thanks to Ray, we have photos of Southgate because we don't really have a heck of a lot of them. Here's 2 more. Bakery, obviously with Christmas ornaments, little red elf, little red deer, and then some of the various displays that were up. Southridge Mall, quite the big one. These again are Ray Chopre shots of the mall circa 1980. Very elaborate displays. I lived on the north side, so Northridge was very similar to this, but because of Ray Chopre, we have a lot of the South Ridge images, and they're wonderful. This is a couple more, and these would change every year. Sometimes it would be Disney themed. Sometimes it would, there would be all these different themes, and they were, there was a lot of room to do them, so they were quite expansive. One more shot. I just posted this one on our Facebook page, but again, it kind of gives you the scope and the size of a lot of these images. So a newer one is Candy Cane Lane, and Milwaukeeans love to decorate their homes and to look at other people's decorations. That's a tradition. Oh, let's drive around and look, or let's walk around and look. I know we do it when we walk our dog, but Candy Cane Lane grew out of it was a MAC fund benefit in 1984. It was for a West Dallas neighborhood, and this is kind of around 108th, maybe like Oklahoma area, I believe. In that general area, West Dallas, west side of West Dallas, and it has exploded in popularity since then. If you haven't had a chance to see it, it's well worth it. And again, a great thing to do outside. These images are compliments of a good friend of mine, Rich Green. He goes there every year. He's a great photographer, and he has captured a lot of the images. And again, we don't have any, so he was kind enough to share them with us. They're just absolutely stunning. I am amazed at this. As a former electrician, I imagine these panels in these people's homes and the transformers in the neighborhood just really cooking. I mean, these are some major light displays. This one is just amazing to look at. But again, thanks, Rich. And so that's a tradition. And to kind of wrap it up, because New Year's is a part of it too. These are shots of the Milwaukee lakefront. This is 1918. The gentleman who took them, his name is John Betnash. A little bit about him. He graduated from high school 1918. He became a chandelierer, which which meant he worked on street lights. But he also was a very gifted photographer, bought a camera, and just went all around 1920s, 30s Milwaukee taking wonderful pictures. Now, these are a couple of this is a picture of his buddy. And what his buddy is doing is engaging in a very popular fad that began in 1913. There were three friends who began to take dips in Lake Michigan, in December and January, but often just like off season, February, when it's really cold and you would never think of going in Lake Michigan. So these three guys kind of did this regularly, got some attention, and then other people began to do it. So this is John's friend doing it in 1918. And these are really the only great pictures we have of what has now become the Polar Bear Club. But, from this start of these three buddies doing it, and I think their names, the Frank Sutter, Jim Brazil, and Gus Marks. These were the brave young men who did this from 1913 on, and it became what we know as the Milwaukee Polar Bear Club. And that's it. Thank you very much. We got ready kilowatt. Steve's finally done 8:30 and all as well. Sorry I went a little long there, John, but happy holidays, guys.
Hey, that was awesome. It's so fun for me because I didn't grow up in this area. So, seeing presentations like this make me feel connected to that era of Milwaukee in a sense that I go past these places all the time and I now get to experience them in this way. So it's still really fun for me. So thank you, Steve, for bringing that up and bringing out this presentation. Oh yeah. Well, a lot of comments. Let me put it that way. Here we go. Can't say I've ever heard of the 100-car menorah parade. Do you know where that goes and when it goes?
Well, during Hanukkah, I don't. I can find out from my buddy Steve. I'm sure it's on the North Shore. I would only see individual cars. I've never seen the parade. Those photographs are compliments. I don't know. We can find that out though. That's from Marshall. Hey, Marshall, thanks.
Yeah. And then, I see like people just with their comments and their recollections. It's always great. So love the monorail train on the ceiling of the toy department. I believe the Boston store downtown, late 60s, early 70s.
Wish we had a picture of that.
Yeah, that's what she's saying. Would love to see pictures of that. That's where it's, when people are going through relatives' houses at any point, like when you're bringing up photos and, I think of my own family photos differently now being a historian in the sense that you go, even though you look at something, you say, well, that was in the 90s. Well, that's a part of history that could get lost, right? So,
and mark it and mark the people on it, date and names.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Make people.
Well, it's important.
Yeah, make people like Steve's life's easier too. So. Otherwise, you see in antique stores all those times about Christmas photos or wedding photos with no names on them, and they just get lost. And so, make sure you put something. That's a big thing. And if you're doing digital photos, put that in the photo title when you're saving your JPEGs or whatever. So I'll talk real quick about the beer that you put up about Miller. So Miller, so what a lot of breweries would do during that time, and I've turned some of these, a lot of breweries had holiday beer or Christmas beer. And I've actually on my tree back here.
Nice.
I have framed some labels. I didn't plan this at all. Oh, the thing's gonna fall off. Okay. So here you go. So here's one. So that's a holiday brew from a brewery called Rars that Rars existed. This one's out of Green Bay, but they had one in Manitowoc and Oshkosh as well. But what they would do every year, almost every brewery had a beer like this. They would basically put out a high alcohol beer as a thank you for your patronage. So we're talking about though, like you take so at that point, so the Miller label you put up, basically take a Miller High Life, which is probably 4.5% alcohol.
Yeah.
Let's make that an 8% alcohol beer.
Oh, wow.
So basically what they were doing is once a year releasing malt liquor. And it was like a thank you to you, like, thank you for being our valued customer. and here's how you can get through the holidays with your family.
Get
We're going to
hammered.
get you all lubed up.
That's classic.
So that's
great.
basically what a holiday beer was. And so I've had recreations of those from different home brewers, and they're a lot of fun. But yeah, you having grown up in Green Bay, and you talked a lot about not Green Bay, in Milwaukee. You having grown up in Milwaukee, living in the Capitol Court area, I have two questions. First, what is like your favorite holiday memory from growing up? And second, what is the toy that you never got that you really wanted?
Wow. Toy I never got. Wow. I pretty much, you know what? I wanted an RC boat.
Okay.
And this would have been the 1970s. So that would have been like screamingly expensive for my parents. And I would have smashed it up. I would have taken it over to Deneen Pond and sunk it. So my parents were like, "No, you're too."
They knew that.
You're too much of a spaz. Yeah, you're too much of a spaz for that. But so that I think my favorite Christmas memory is really just shopping at Capitol Court with my sisters for, presents for my parents and just being wrapped up in that in that mall, eating at Gimbel's. They had a cafe there. Going to Hagensacks Playroom, just everything, and then the cookie house. And then I didn't really even show a lot of. I didn't want to have my Capitol Court bias, but the outside mall was just beautifully decorated, just wonderful. And so I guess that would be it. And the tree, just seeing that tree.
Well, those cookie house photos you showed looked like some weird Christmas cult, but from an outsider perspective, kids wearing? This is bizarre.
I was thinking to myself, do I really post this?
They look like they in the striped uniforms. They look like they were jailed or
little
something.
Prisoners.
Yeah,
little prisoners or something. No, it was. I wish we have some good shots of that's probably our best one of the cookie house. We have a couple of that people who work there took, and we somehow got them. So it's like the guy who was Santa with his arms around the two L's. They're classic, but it's obviously the background of the cookie house.
Funny.
Cool.
Yeah. I think we ended the year on a bang as far as these presentations went. Everything went really smoothly, which is fantastic.
That's good.
I want to thank everybody who's tuned in. Steve has done. Greg put up. You cannot show too much of the cookie house.
All right, Greg.
So maybe next year we do maybe next year it's just a Capitol Court Christmas, and that's all the photos.
All right, there we go. Yeah,
but
I'm going to bombard.
I really appreciate. Go ahead.
One more time. I'm going to really bombard our Facebook page with Christmas photos in the next week, so there'll be plenty of Capitol Court. Sorry, John.
No, you're good. And we are very active on our Instagram page now, so you'll put them up on there too.
Oh, absolutely.
So That's awesome. But yeah, everybody who's tuned in throughout the last 8 months of just hell that we've been living in, thank you, because these presentations have been able to keep our mission alive through promoting and preserving and keeping Milwaukee's history relevant and active in the community. And we wouldn't do this if people didn't tune into them. So we appreciate you all for tuning into all these things. And we're going to keep doing them. Vaccines are getting rolled out. We're not out of the woods yet. So please stay safe, follow all the regulations. And even as we get back into what is maybe considered now normal life, I think this is something that's not going to go away. So we have found that we really enjoy doing these virtual presentations, and we can reach a lot of you. So we appreciate you tuning in. The way to keep these things going, though, is to hit the donate button at MilwaukeeHistory.net. So if you feel inclined right now during the holiday season, just hit up our website, and right at the top right corner of things, you can see a donate button, and keep us doing these presentations into 2021 and beyond. But Steve, or Santa. Okay. We had Santa Zoom things for sale, and I thought it'd be weird because I don't have kids, so I didn't buy one. So
Right.
could you give me your best ho 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 before we go?
Okay.
Gotta get in character.
How's that?
Well, that's perfect.
Does that work?
All right. Yeah,
All
that's
right,
awesome.
man.
All right, everybody, stay safe. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, and we'll see you all in 2021. Make sure you follow us on social media for upcoming presentations. Steve, wonderful job.
Thanks, John. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
All right, cheers, everybody.